The big stadium lights were shining bright. The floors were smooth and shiny. All around the stadium, there were colorful flags and banners from many countries. The flags came from every continent, and they were hanging high in the air. Each one stood for a school, a style of martial arts, or even a whole country. But this wasn't just a fighting contest. It was a big special show. An international show where the best martial artists came not to fight, but to show their skills. There were world champions, Olympic medal winners, and famous fighters from many years ago. They all came to share their art. It wasn't about winning or losing. It was about respect and honor. Jason Statham was there too. He stood behind the judges' table. He wore a plain black jacket and a simple t-shirt. He didn't have any medals or badges on him. He didn't even show his rank. He just stood tall, quiet, and calm, watching everything. Jason had been invited at the last minute. He wasn't going to fight or perform. He was there to be honored. People wanted to thank him for bringing martial arts into movies. But what they didn't know was that Jason was much more than an actor. They didn't know about his past. They didn't know about the medals he had won. They didn't know he had 6 world titles before he ever became a movie star. Jason had never told anyone about that part of his life. But today, someone was about to forget that, completely. Suddenly, the announcer's loud voice came through the speakers. He sounded very excited. Next up, from South Korea, national champion. Never beaten in his area's sparring contests. The one and only. Taekwondo. People in the east part of the stadium cheered and clapped loudly. A young man, maybe around 20 years old, walked out. He wore a bright white uniform with cool designs and sponsor logos. His black belt was thick and new, tied with pride. You could almost hear his confidence in every step. The Tae was full of energy. He smiled big and showed all his feelings. As soon as he stepped on the mat, he looked straight at Jason. Jason didn't move. Tae bowed to the crowd. Then he bowed to the judges and other martial arts leaders. Then, with a little smirk, he looked at Jason and did a funny fake bow. It was slow and silly, like a stage actor trying to be fancy. Some of the younger people in the crowd giggled. Jason didn't get mad, but he looked closely. Not because he felt insulted, but because he recognized what this was. This wasn't just a fun show for Tae. He was trying to pick a fight. The announcer was surprised when Tae raised his hand and asked for something not on the schedule. He said he wanted to do a special unplanned show, a spontaneous moment. He said it was an invitation to a legend. He asked Jason Statham to join him on the mat. At first, the crowd gasped. Then they started clapping. Soon people were chanting, "Jason! Jason! Jason!" Jason didn't smile or move quickly. He just stood up slowly. One of the organizers whispered something to him, probably trying to stop him. But Jason didn't listen. He walked onto the mat, took off his jacket, and stepped into the center. Tae turned to face him. He was smiling even bigger now. He had the kind of smile people have when they think they're in control. He lifted his hands into a cool fighting pose. One foot bounced up and down. He looked ready to dance and fight at the same time. Jason didn't take any fancy poses. He just stood there. His hands relaxed. His feet are solid on the ground. No flash. No show. Just stillness. Just being ready. Some people in the crowd took out their phones to film. Even though cameras weren't supposed to be rolling, they had a feeling something big was about to happen. Tae moved first. He kicked high and fast. The kick whooshed a few inches in front of Jason's face. But it didn't touch him. It was just a warning. Jason didn't move. Tae chuckled. Then he spun and did a turning hook kick. It looked cool but still didn't touch. He was showing off. The crowd laughed nervously. Jason stepped forward once. Tae jumped back a little. More than he meant to. Jason didn't do anything else. He just stood still again. That little moment told the crowd something important. Jason wasn't here to play. Tae put his hands up again and said something quietly. Probably a little joke for the cameras. Jason didn't answer. He just stepped closer. Just a tiny bit into Tae's space. Tae kicked again, this time a fast backward kick. It was close and sudden. But Jason moved just right. He slipped past the kick and gently tapped Tae's shoulder. Just a light touch. Not a hit. Tae lost his balance for a second and had to catch himself. The room got quiet. Most people didn't notice much. But the experts, the real fighters in the room, they saw it. Jason had stepped inside the guard of a champion and moved him with almost no effort. That meant something. Tae blinked. He didn't really know what had happened. So, he tried harder. He jumped and spun, doing a big roundhouse kick. It looked amazing. It was meant to make Jason look silly. But Jason moved left, into the blind spot. He gently put a hand on the back of Tae's head as he landed. He didn't hit him. Just showed he could have. Tae spun around, breathing harder. He was embarrassed now. Jason still hadn't even lifted his fists. The crowd began whispering. Something was different here. In the VIP seats, an old karate master from Japan leaned over and whispered to his assistant. He said Jason wasn't acting. He said Jason was using a real combat rhythm. That meant Jason could read his opponent's moves without needing to react fast. He was just that calm and smart. The old master said only a few fighters in the world could do that. Jason had won 6 world titles by doing just that. Tae attacked again. This time with a storm of fast kicks and swinging fists. But Jason saw the rhythm right away. After the first kick, he already knew the rest. By the third strike, Jason was inside Tae's space again. He ducked, slipped past the hits, and moved in a circle. He swept Tae's leg, and Tae fell to one knee. Jason didn't hit him. He just stepped back. Tae stood up quickly. He was breathing hard now. He tried to look confident, but he was starting to break inside. Jason stepped forward again. Just 2 steps. Tae lifted his hands again. This time, not to attack, but to protect himself. And that's when Jason moved for real. In one smooth motion, Jason stepped to the side, turned Tae's hands outward, tapped his standing leg, and gently dropped him to the ground. No power. Just perfect skill. Tae hit the mat. The whole stadium went silent. Jason stood over him. Calm. Quiet. He didn't look proud. He didn't act like he had won anything. He was just there. Tae looked up. His face was red. He was breathing hard. And in that moment, he finally understood. Jason wasn't just a movie star who learned some cool moves. He was a real martial artist. A champion. A man who had stood on top of the world 6 times, with gold medals around his neck and the best fighters lying on the mat, just like this. Jason didn't need people to cheer. He didn't need to brag. Because he had something more important than applause. He had a legacy. Jason stepped off the mat. He didn't bow. He didn't smile. He just picked up his jacket and walked away. As Jason left the big room, the announcer tried to speak. He sounded a little confused, a little out of breath. He wanted to explain what just happened. But no one was listening. Everyone was watching Tae. Tae was still sitting on the mat. His head was down. He didn't move. He had just realized something deep inside. Jason thought it was over. He thought he had just taught a small lesson and left. But someone else had seen everything. And to that person, it wasn't just about respect. It was about getting even. It was about revenge. You see, there wasn't supposed to be a video. No camera crews were allowed. No one had permission to film. No live stream was set up. But someone sitting in the 3rd row had taken a video anyway. They used a small shaky camera. The video was a little blurry. But it didn't matter. The video showed everything. Jason is calm. Tae falling. Then, complete silence. In just 2 hours, the video was all over the internet. 1,000 people reposted it. 10,000 people left comments. By morning, a man named Do-Taek Soren saw it. Most people had never heard of Do-Taek. But in secret martial arts groups, everyone knew his name. He used to be a champion in Europe. He wasn't famous now, but he was still strong. He trained fighters who didn't care about medals. They only cared about ending fights fast. Do-Taek wasn't watching for fun. He was watching because Tae was one of his students. And now, someone had embarrassed Tae. Do-Taek slammed his laptop shut. He was standing alone in a quiet gym in Berlin. The gym had mirrors on one wall. The other wall had trophies, broken, chipped, and dented. Each one told a story. Do-take didn't yell. He didn't punch a wall. He just turned to his second-in-command and said 5 words. Bring him to London. Quiet. Jason had no idea any of this was happening. He was already back in the UK. He was at a small gym in East Ham. This was the same gym he used before he became famous. The gym was simple. Concrete walls. No heating. Old punching bags hanging from the ceiling. Jason trained alone. Not to stay ready for fights, but to stay disciplined. To stay calm. Karate, for Jason, was never about hurting people. It was about control. It was about knowing when not to fight. It was about reading an insult and not letting it get inside you. That's why he didn't hit Tay. That's why he didn't smile when Tay fell. But now, people were saying his calmness was a challenge. Like he was showing off. 2 days later, an invitation came. It said, Private Martial Arts Summit. In London. Invite only. No one knew who was hosting it. No one knew who paid for it. It wasn't a show. It was quiet. Secret. Jason almost said no. But when he saw where it was, an old theater turned into a fight place, he felt something strange. This didn't feel like an invitation. It felt like a trap. The theater had rusty doors. Only one light outside. Inside, the floor was shiny wood. The seats were dark. In the middle was a small mat under a bright light. No fans. No cameras. Just silence. Just fighters. Jason stepped in. People saw him. Some nodded. Some stared. But one man kept staring without blinking. It was Do-take. He sat in the back. Legs apart. Arms crossed. Not moving. Jason looked at him. In 3 seconds, he knew everything. Do-take wasn't here to fight. He was here to take something back. Do-take stood up. He walked slowly to the mat. He took off his shoes. He rolled his wrists like he was shaking off memories. The host didn't know what to say. So he just said, a friendly match. Jason stepped forward. He didn't bow. He didn't say anything. He just faced the mat. Do-take didn't jump around. He just stood firm. He had a kickboxing stance. He was built strong. He liked pressure. Jason lowered his chin. Moved 1 foot back. Not a full guard. Just ready. There was no bell. No countdown. The fight just began. Do-take struck first. He threw a punch at Jason's body. But Jason slipped past it. He touched Do-take's elbow and moved away. He didn't hit. He just took a better position. Do-take reset. He knew Jason wasn't like Tay. Next came a fast combo. Hook punch, leg kick, big overhand right. Jason blocked, turned, and swept low. Do-take had to step back. The room got quiet. Not because Jason hit hard, but because Do-take had to reset. Now Do-take had to figure Jason out. He came in low. Pretended to go for the legs. Changed direction. Tried to mess with Jason's timing. But Jason didn't fall for it. Jason moved like a karate fighter. Sharp. Fast. Like music with an odd beat. Do-take tried a spinning back kick. Jason stepped out of the way. Do-take landed too heavy. Jason tapped Do-take's back leg. Do-take stumbled. Jason didn't chase him. He just stood there, breathing slowly. That's when Do-take got serious. No more tricks. He moved in hard. Body shots. Elbows. Tried to grab Jason. Jason got caught in a clinch. Took an elbow to the ribs. But he didn't flinch. He used the closeness to grab and flip Do-take with a shoulder throw. Do-take hit the mat. Hard. Now the room has shifted. Jason wasn't just calm. He was in control. Do-take got up slowly. He could feel it. This wasn't about respect anymore. He had to stop Jason before he got broken down. He faked a move. Pretended to go for the leg. Then jumped up with a head kick. Jason ducked. And then came the punch. Not a wild punch. Not angry. Just one clean, sharp karate punch. It stopped 1 inch from Do-take's chest. Everyone saw it. If Jason had followed through, Do-Take would be on the floor. Jason stepped back. Do-Take looked down. He didn't say a word. He knew now. Jason didn't just beat him. Jason chose not to finish him. The host walked over, said something about a great match and respect. But everyone already knew the truth. Do-Take stepped off the mat. He didn't look back. Jason didn't move. He waited until the room was empty, then picked up his bag and walked out into the cold London rain. He didn't say anything, but no one in that room knew the full story. Jason wasn't keeping score. He didn't care about winning. He wasn't trying to be famous. He was trying to leave behind the part of himself that didn't need permission to destroy people. But the world, it kept pulling him back. Jason thought it was over again. He thought this match was the end. But deep below the old theater, 2 floors down, someone else had been watching. Someone who trained Tay. Someone who paid Do-Take. Someone who wasn't finished yet. Behind a thick metal door, hidden like a storage closet, there was a dark room. Only one light. Cables all over the floor. Many screens on the wall. On the screens were replays. Jason's last fight. Every step. Every move. All played in slow motion. Someone was watching every detail. Studying Jason. Breath by breath. Foot by foot. And sitting in the middle of that room. Not speaking. Just thinking. Was the man behind it all? Master Han Ji-soo was once a famous Taekwondo master. He was so good that he almost made it to the Olympics. People who really knew martial arts respected him a lot. But now, many new fighters didn't even know his name. They had forgotten how great he once was. One of the students he trained a long time ago was named Tay. Tay was just 12 years old when Han Ji started teaching him. Han Ji didn't teach him to be loud or forceful. He taught him how to move smoothly, to kick fast before kicking hard. He taught him to stay calm. But now, Han Ji watched something surprising. A new fighter named Jason was fighting Tay. Jason was taking apart everything Han Ji had taught his student. He was so still, so calm, it reminded Han Ji of his own master from many years ago. But Han Ji didn't feel amazed. He felt something else, a challenge. Jason wasn't just someone trying to be popular or famous online. He wasn't selling videos or looking for likes. He was serious. And when someone is real like that, they must be tested. The fight was over. Jason had left. The people who were watching had gone too, talking in quiet voices about what they saw. But Han Ji stayed behind, watching one last moment of the fight in his mind. Jason's hand, stopping just an inch from Tay's chest. He could have hit, but he didn't. It was like Jason was saying something without words. Han Ji turned to his helper and didn't say anything. He just nodded. The next morning, a package came to a gym in East Ham. No stamp. No name. Just a folded piece of paper inside. It said only, "Your silence was strong. Let's see if it can stand tradition." There was no date. No address. Just a picture of a flying crane. Jason read it. He knew what it meant right away. That evening, Jason drove north. He left the city behind, passed by old buildings, factories, and open fields. Finally, he saw a red flag hanging from a wooden post. This was the place. It wasn't a fancy gym. It didn't have big signs or seats. It was a quiet place for serious training. Inside, the floor was made of old wood. It was cold. No one was watching. Jason stepped in and took off his shoes. There, waiting on the mat, was Master Han Ji-soo. He wore a plain red uniform with no symbols or belt. He had no students with him. Just himself. Just silence. Jason bowed a little. Not because he was scared, but because he respected Han Ji. Han Ji bowed back. Then, without any words, they walked to different sides of the mat. No one said start. There were no rules. Only the sound of wind outside and 2 people with 20 years of skill in their bodies. Han Ji moved first. Not with a big kick, but with a small fake step, to see how Jason would react. Jason didn't move. So Han Ji came closer and kicked low and around, trying to push Jason off balance. Jason turned just enough. Calm. Careful. He didn't try to attack. He just watched. Han Ji gave a tiny smile. Then he kicked faster, 1, 2, and then a jump kick from the side. Jason ducked, stepped to the side, and avoided all 3 kicks. When Han Ji landed, ready to fight back, Jason wasn't there anymore. He had already moved. Now the fight got faster. Han Ji moved quickly with his arms up, relaxed but ready. His feet tapped the floor like tiny drums. Kicks flew fast, left, right, then a fake, then a sweeping move. Jason dodged, blocked, and turned. None of the kicks touched him. But Jason never moved more than needed. He didn't run. He didn't jump around. He just stayed where he needed to be. Han Ji tried to move around him. Jason stepped in close and gently touched Han Ji's shoulder, just enough to stop him. Han Ji took a step back and started again, slower this time. He wasn't angry. He was thinking. How could Jason stay so calm? Where was the fire? The energy? The push to win? Jason didn't carry those things. He had something else, balance. Han Ji changed again. This time he didn't use kicks. He moved in fast, trying to grab Jason's arms and twist his body. Jason let him come close, then softly turned Han Ji's arm and moved his wrist. It was like stopping a door from swinging open, gentle but sure. Han Ji tried to break free. Jason let go, stepped back. No control. No grabbing. Just flow. They moved again and again. And every time Han Ji came close, he got a little more tired. Then Han Ji stopped. Not because he was out of energy, but because he understood something. Jason stood quietly across from him, breathing like he had just started. Calm. Han Ji saw it now. Jason's power wasn't in how hard he hit. It was in the choices he made. Jason didn't need to beat you. He made you chase him until you wore yourself out. It wasn't about smashing. It was about guiding. That was the highest level of skill, not fighting to win, but fighting with peace. Han Ji bowed all the way this time. Jason bowed too. They met in the middle. Said nothing. And that was it. Jason walked outside into the cold. Han Ji's assistant handed him a card. It said. He was watching again. And this time he's sending too. Jason didn't ask who he was. He already knew. This wasn't about showing off. This was about legacy. About the biggest challenge of his life. Later, Jason arrived at his next match. It wasn't in a gym or a training center. It was an old broken-down building near Manchester. Long ago, it was a place where people made clothes. Now, it was forgotten. The windows were smashed. The walls had black marks from fire. It was the kind of place people didn't talk about. Jason walked down the broken stairs. Every step made a crunching sound. It was quiet until the last step, then he heard footsteps. But not walking toward him. They were moving into position. He opened a big steel door. Inside was a wide, gray room. The only light came from 2 buzzing lamps above the mat. There were no signs. No cheering. Only echoes. On opposite sides of the room stood 2 fighters. They weren't beginners. They weren't students. They were dangerous. One was tall and lean, standing low with sharp eyes. He used Muay Thai, a fighting style with strong knees and elbows. His arms were already warm and ready. The other was shorter, quick like a cat, his hands always moving. He used Shotokan karate, but changed for the street, faster, sneakier. Jason stood in the middle. He didn't speak. They didn't either. This wasn't a mistake. It was planned. Someone wanted to break him, to shake him from his rhythm. 2 against 1 wasn't a fair fight. It was meant to confuse him, to mess up his calm. Unless you weren't afraid of chaos. Unless you trained for it. The karate fighter moved first. He faked low, then shot forward with fast punches. Jason turned, blocked 1 strike with his elbow, and ducked under a second. Then the Muay Thai fighter joined in, a low kick, then a spinning elbow. Jason flowed again, moving from one position to the next like water. He didn't hit back hard. He just moved. Let their power slide past him. But now they are working together. One tried to trap him. The other tried to stop him from escaping. Jason dropped low, found a new spot, and pushed one away just enough. And then the real fight began. No more warm-ups. They both attacked, fast and strong. The karate fighter went high with a punch. The Muay Thai fighter spun in with his elbow. Jason breathed in once. Then I moved. Jason stood still. He moved his feet just right so he wouldn't fall. He turned his body with strength and held his ground. The man in front of him wore a karate outfit called a GI. Jason grabbed the edge of that GI. He didn't pull to throw him. He used it to block an elbow strike coming from another man, a Muay Thai fighter. The two men bumped into Jason at the same time. For a moment, it was confusing. That was the moment Jason used. He stepped through their legs and swept the man in the GI off his feet. He fell to the ground. The Muay Thai fighter moved quickly, spinning to stay safe, but when he looked up, Jason was gone. Jason now stood 6 feet away. His breathing was calm. His hands were down. He looked peaceful. The man in the GI shook his head and stood up. He looked at his partner. They were now frustrated. They moved in again, smarter this time. They came at different angles, trying to trick Jason. Jason ducked under 2 quick attacks. He took one light punch to the ribs, but then he hit back. It was his first real hit in the whole fight, a straight punch to the chest. But Jason pulled the punch back so it wouldn't hurt too much. He wasn't trying to break anything. He was just sending a message. The man in the GI stumbled backwards. Then the Muay Thai fighter tried again. Jason grabbed him up close. He used his knee to stop the attack. Then he pushed the man into the wall, gently bringing him to the floor. He didn't follow with more hits. He didn't need to. Now both men were getting tired. Jason had only used about 5 strikes in total. But neither of the two could catch him. Worse for them, they were getting slower. Jason walked back to the center of the mat and waited. The man in the GI sat down. Not because he gave up, but because he understood. His partner did the same. They didn't bow. They didn't speak. They just accepted it. Not because Jason beat them in a big way, but because they realized something. They couldn't reach him. Then, across the arena, a door opened. Someone clapped their hands once. Jason turned to look. A man dressed in black was walking slowly down the steps. He was lean and familiar. His name was Tay. Jason knew him from before. Tay looked different now. No flashy moves. No big attitude. Just silence. He walked forward. Jason didn't move. Tay raised one hand, not to fight, but to say, "I'm here now." He pointed to the 2 men who had just fought. Then he pointed to the floor. Then to himself. As if to say, "They tried. Now it's my turn again." Jason tilted his head a little. Tay stepped onto the mat. No loud crowd. No music. Just something that needed to finish. He moved better now. His feet were sharper, cleaner. He had been training in a new way. Jason saw it and respected it. They circled each other once. Then Tay attacked. First, a front leg axe kick. Then a side kick. Jason blocked the first one. The second one hit his shoulder, but didn't hurt. Jason stepped inside and tapped Tay's chest with an open hand. Not hard. Just to say, "I'm here." The Tay didn't fall. He reset himself. That was good. He had grown. Then came more attacks. A combo, punch, elbow, and a sweep. Jason caught the elbow and moved close. Tay tried to spin. Jason spun with him, staying in control. He didn't need to lock him. Just flow. Tay lost his balance. Jason caught him. Held him. Then gently let him fall. Everything was quiet again. Jason offered his hand. Tay took it. No shame. Just understanding. Everyone watching saw something big. Jason wasn't just a strong fighter. He didn't fight to win. He fought without anger. Without fear. Without trying to prove anything. His power wasn't about beating others. It was about the power he didn't have to use. Jason thought it was over. But back in London, someone was waiting for him. At his gym, a man in a suit was sitting on the bench. He looked serious. Clean hair, clean clothes. He held a black folder in his lap. On the folder was one word, Tokyo. Jason didn't need to ask who the man was. He could tell. This man was from the military. Or maybe something like it. Maybe a spy. Maybe something else. But the message was clear. This wasn't a request. The man stood up, gave Jason the folder, and said, "They asked for you by name." Then he walked out. No questions. No time to think. Jason stood in his gym, holding the folder. It felt heavy. He opened it. Inside was a photo, a fight record, and a name. A name Jason had not heard in 15 years, Taek. Taek was his old rival, a karate star from Japan, known for the fastest knockout in the history of his country. But he had retired after just one loss. That loss? To Jason. No one knew about that fight. It had been private. No judges. No crowd. Jason had been invited to just watch. But Taek didn't like him being there. He felt disrespected. His pride was hurt. So they fought. Jason won. After that, Taek disappeared. Until now. Jason didn't need to read more. He knew. This fight wasn't about revenge. It was the last part of a story. And it needed to be finished. 2 days later, Jason arrived in Tokyo. No big posters. No lights. Just a quiet match, set for midnight. The place was outside the city, in a quiet temple. The mat was made of stone, lit by just one candle. Trees and fog surrounded it. Jason came alone. Taek was already there. He stood barefoot on the mat. His GI was plain white. No symbols. No belts. He looked older, but strong. They faced each other and bowed. Not to say sorry. Just to say this is the end. Taek moves first. A soft low kick. Jason didn't block. He let it land lightly. Then Jason stepped forward with a little fake move, to see if Taek would react. Taek didn't blink. He wasn't going to chase. He was here to prove himself. They moved slowly at first. Like the old days. Simple karate. No flips. No flash. Just clean moves. Smart blocks. Fast, but not rushed. Then finally they touched. An elbow hit Jason's arm. Jason answered with a kick to block Taek's leg. Taek slipped a little. They both smiled, just a little. Then the speed grew. Taek hits with a punch, a body shot, then a leg sweep. Jason stepped through it, caught his arm, and made him lose balance. But Taek recovered fast. He hit Jason's shoulder with a reverse punch. Contact. Jason responded. A sharp hand strike to the ribs. Contact. Still, no knockouts. No show-off moves. Just the truth. The real way of fighting. Minutes passed. Then 20 minutes. Both men were tired. Sweat dripped onto the stone. Then, one last moment. They clashed. Elbows. Punches. Knees. They locked up. Jason was in the stronger spot. He could have ended it. But Taek didn't fight anymore. He breathed out and dropped his guard. Jason let him go. Taek stepped back, nodded, and knelt on one knee. Not because he lost. Because he was at peace. The match was done. Jason bowed again. He walked into the fog, his coat on his shoulder. Barefoot. No medals. No crowd. Just a man who had once fought to prove something, and now didn't have to. A week later, back in London, a video of Jason fighting Taek was all over the internet. People made comments. Experts talked about it. But Jason? He was back in his gym. On the floor. Teaching a 10-year-old how to move his feet. The boy didn't care about big titles. Or famous fights. He just didn't want to be picked on at school. Jason smiled. Because that was what it was all for. Not the wins. Not the lights. Not even the silence. But the stillness. The peace that comes after. Most people fight to win. But the ones who truly know themselves, they fight so they never have to fight again. Have you ever seen someone who is calm but super strong inside? Tell your story in the comments. Let's talk about real power. If you enjoyed this story, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing from you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the next thrilling adventure or mysterious twist. Thanks so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Until then, stay curious and keep exploring.